Welcome everybody to a quick look at the demo of Piece of Evil, a game that is currently on Kickstarter. I'll link it below. Got I think an $8,000 goal, but it's well over halfway, and it's only a few days in, so chances are this thing's going to be funded. And I thought it looked kind of cool, like really adorable and cute, so let's get right into it, shall we? Once upon a time, back in far-fetched era of the time when mankind roamed the earth, there was a group of ambitious humans. These humans were wise and intellectual, curious and ambitious. Most unfortunately, greedy and vain in nature. Those traits weren't that good of a combo, if you ask me. Regardless, in the midst of their own greed and vanity to chase after gold and glory, they've overstepped the boundaries of curiosity and created a brand new race of living beings. This new race was called hybrids. The news of the creations invoked a vast range of reactions. Some of their kin couldn't care less. Another group found it horrible and inhumane, while there was also a group that found the creations were an impressive triumph of science. Despite the differences of opinions, these diverse groups were civil and peaceful to one another. They only engaged in friendly debates and often have no grudge or hostility to the creations. Although the two extremes that were birthed from success were nowhere near civil to one another. These extremes had two completely different opinions. One was pro-hybrids, while the other was anti-hybrids. Yeah, you know where this is going. It started small at first. Siblings blocking each other on social media. Friends arguing and taking sides. Lovers fought over their own beliefs. Small things like that. But the moment politicians and media got involved, well, all hell broke loose. Neither extremes wanted to give up on their belief, nor did they want to sit down and compromise. Humans' ego at its finest. Although they were small in group, but their voices were loud and the world started crumbling down. It was long before propaganda spread and war broke out. Despite everything, the first generation of hybrids was still introduced and paraded to public. Raksha was one of the first hybrids produced by the hands of man. Genetically engineered in labs from different paternal donors, Raksha and her 12 younger siblings were born from the same surrogate mother. The young human mother loved her hybrid children so much. Times being kept in the lab were a period of isolation and torment. She had never seen the world outside and never felt the fresh breeze of air nor the warmth of another human. Hence, when she held her first child, she instantly fell in love and really never wanted to let go. She blessed the firstborn with a name of her own and choice, entrusting her hopes and wishes to the cub. The small cub grew as the eldest and the leader of the originals. He was the fountain of wisdom among the first generation, the most beautiful of them all, the kindest, and the first to notice that the universe was not pleased with what man had done. Oh, she tried to save mankind. She really did. By what they have done to both her parents and the inhumane researches and resulted in her own birth, she held true to her name and wished to save everyone. She was the first to notice that the air was stirring. The slight movement of nature's retaliation did not escape her childish observations. As the years passed, nature's anger could no longer be dismissed as a piece of her imagination. The progress of time had contributed to the production of more generations of her kind. Throughout the process, mankind stripped the nature barren through their fights and wars without even considering the suffering they had caused to other creatures that shared the same earth they walked on. By the time Raksha had grown mature, over half of the world was in ruins due to wars. Fear gripped her as nature grew restless. She could sense the anger that blew with the wind, the wrath and the heat of the sun, and the cries of the animals. Young as she was, she understood the message. Nature was livid. She tried to warn the humans, she really did. She warned them that the sea was growling in rage, displeased with the way its stomach was used as testing grounds. The earth was rumbling restlessly too, no longer able to stand the massive spillage of blood it had to swallow. The wind howled and seethed, suffering in the poisonous particles of humans' creation. The volcanoes boiled underneath their silence, a building anger towards humanity, yet the humans didn't listen. They were too fascinated with the reappearance of extinct animals, capturing the poor animals to be engineered to a new generation of hybrids. They were too distracted with the gold that grew like fungus on their walls, fighting over the valuable metal without caring who they have to trample. They were too busy worshipping themselves, fighting with each other over their different opinions and beliefs. They were too self-absorbed with themselves to notice that the universe was retaliating, and hence when the sky turned dark and the screeching sound of universe's wrath traveled across the land, Raksha gathered her kin, the first few generation of hybrids, and fled. They traveled without rest, without aim, only using their natural instinct they sought for safety. They witnessed the earth split into two. Huge cracks broke through the barren land, rocks and soil fell to the depths of the darkness below as ancient beasts of man's myths re-emerged to the open sky. The beasts slithered, crawled, glided, and flew out of the earth to join them, running with the stampede of animals whom had long detected the wrath as they all headed in one direction, to take refuge in the protected, fertile land. It was 3 long, dark days. 3 impossibly long days without a sign of hope. There was no light, the air was pungent, and the only sound that broke through the silent air was the high-pitched screeching sounds that echoed throughout the world. Humans heeded no attention to their mismatched exodus. They were too busy breaking into their own chaos to notice the fleeing animals. Mothers had abandoned their babies while trying to flee, brothers pushing each other, fighting over their supposed hope of safety. Fathers leaving their family behind to save themselves. The humans were stripped of their masks, finally showing their true colors. By the dawn of the 3rd dark day, as the sun had risen from the west horizon, the hybrids, safe within the protection of the forest they found, had witnessed the end of the age of man. Then the new world was created from the remains of the old world. The earth rumbled and shook, creating new lands and islands for each wave of tremble it produced. The sea washed all over the world in one big wave, wiping out the remains of the age of man into its stomach. The wind danced merrily, cleaning the world and bringing back the fresh scent of life again. The new world was created right in front of the mismatched group's eyes. Barren and empty the new world was when Raksha and her siblings were given the responsibility by nature itself to govern the world in place of mankind. Bonded with elements of the universe, they shouldered their responsibilities as governor of the earth in exchange for immortality and supernatural prowess. Not a bad deal. The rest of the kin, on the other hand, scattered throughout the land and started new life. For a brief moment, there was peace in the land, but like any other good moment, all things come to an end. It had been a long day. He heaved himself up from the comfort of his chair and staggered onto his feet. His pudgy hand grasped on his cane as he made his way to the balcony. His steps were slow. His soft belly bulged out of his unzipped pants like fluffy a muffin that spilled all over the cup. He didn't remember when was the last time he was able to see his legs when he was standing, but he loved his tummy regardless. He rested by the marble balcony, casting an amused gaze to the festive ground below. The night was still young. Loud music blared against the silence of the night, deafening and erratic. He smiled at the sight of the wonderful lust he brought upon his trusted subordinates. Beneath the dark night sky, bodies writhed and ground against one another. The sight of slick spread thighs and flushed resisting face of the pets he gathered for his men was such a beauty to behold. Attacking the poor villages was a fruitful endeavor. Surely the elderly and the men were not much use to him, hence he had them slaughtered. But the women and the children were pleasurable entertainment. Beautiful pets to be broken. He would have stayed with his men a bit longer, perhaps, savoring a few of the right pets down there. Oh, how he enjoyed their protests. The feisty pets were always fun to break. He would have stayed longer in the party, but hey. He was the king, and it was his birthday, and the celebration of his victory. He deserved a special gift. He grinned when the knock resounded on his door. Slowly turning around, he left his cane by the balcony and waited for his treat for the night. He shot a disinterested look at the trembling kitten hiding in the shadow. Her soft whine remained ignored by the king. As a king, he felt no obligations to tend her benefit and help her get out of the restraint. He had something else much more interesting coming his way. The door opened and in came his servant. The exhausted-looking old owl kept her gaze to the ground, not daring to make eye contact with him at all. "Where's the little brat, old coot?" He spoke with impatience tinging in his voice. His beady eyes got shifty, searching around for his promised prize. They all raised her head just enough for her to make eye contact. And the English is kind of weird in places. Her body trembled, fist clenched on her tattered apron, but she maintained a firm voice as she pleaded. "Your Majesty, please. The boy is too young. It's a bad omen to touch a human." He cut her off with a vase thrown to her head. The old owl crumbled onto her knees, clutching her bleeding head. With tears and blood dripping onto the pieces of the broken vase, she swayed back to her feet. Her arthritic knees ached at her movements. "I do not ask for your advice, old woman. Your time as an advisor has long ended." Kept her gaze onto the ground. The tips of her frayed wings trembled. Blood dripped from the side of her face, and she swayed around. Her age did her no good with such injury. She would have collapsed in front of the cruel pig, if not onto the gentle support of strong arms eased against her weak wings, catching her mid-fall. Who are you? The fat king didn't finish his words. His eyes widened, his pupils dilated, while his breath grew ragged. He was entranced at the sight of the newcomer. His mouth gaped, saliva trickling greedily down the fatty layers of his chin. On the other side of the room, the old owl clutched the flimsy black fabric of her savior, fist trembling on the semi-translucent shirt as she steadied herself, knowing that she had no choice but to leave the young child with the king now. She leaned close to the boy's strange ears, whispering a sincere prayer. May the grace and mercy of Raksha be with you, dear child. Leave, you old coot. The king scoffed, throwing yet another vase to chase the old owl away. Poor servant was able to avoid the vase. She hurried out, but not before shooting the young boy and the cowering, restrained kitten at the corner a fleeting, remorseful look. The heavy door swung ominously behind her as she left. It was eerie silence afterwards. The king shed his clothes, his flabby stomach jiggled as he made his way to his bed. He sat by the edge of the bed with only his underwear on, arms opened in a warm, welcoming gesture. His eyes traveled up and down the boy's body. His tongue occasionally darted out to lick his lips. Come here, sweetheart. The king beckoned the boy closer. His voice came out husky while his breaths were labored, tongue lolling out starving needs. The boy silently obliged, walking towards the pig with rare grace. Such grace was worthy of a royalty. It destroyed whatever that's left of the king's self-control. King could no longer hold himself back. His pudgy hand shot up to grab the boy by the flimsy collar, pulling the youth onto his knees instantly. The fabric ripped under the strong, eager force, exposing the smooth expanse of pale skin. Beautiful. What a beautiful little thing. The king was practically salivating by now. His sweaty fingers traced over the boy's facial features, slowly outlining the narrow eyes, the prominent cheekbones down to the parted lips. He pressed his thumb on the soft plush lips, intending to force his fingers into the boy's throat, then frowned when he noticed that the boy almost looked imposingly tall, despite being on his knees. You're too tall, pet. The king hissed, threading his thick fingers through the soft, pure white hair of the boy before tugging hard. Ground deeper when there was no sound of pain from the boy despite the ruthless treatment. King tugged on the hair again. The kitten at the corner wailed instead. King shot a disdainful look at the kitten, who immediately cowered upon his gaze. Satisfied with the fearful reaction, he turned his attention to the boy, his lips curled to a sultry smirk. He traced a finger over the boy's cheekbone. His finger then went traced the boy's rare ears. Come on, boy. It's painful, isn't it? Come. Let me hear your naughty voice. I'll treat you nice if you behave. Surely a king is far better than the scums on the road where you were found, right? The king coaxed, trying a few more experimental tugs of the boy's hair. One harsh tug had the boy's head tilted to one side. This time the king did visibly drool at the stretch of the pale neck, tongue darting out hungrily on his lips. He leaned down to plant kisses on the boy's neck, soft kisses like teasing butterflies at the first before it turned into mad kisses, leaving sloppy mess of his uncontrollable drool over the pale skin. I'll treat you well if you please me. You won't have to beg on the streets again. Think about the life you can have as my precious pet than the life on the streets. You'll be safer with me. The greedy pig whispered between the kisses, trying to coax any response whatsoever from the boy. He sucked on the skin right below the boy's jaw, hoping for at least a tremble or shiver, but there was none. Pulling away, his chubby face twisted to a scowl when he noticed that there was no trace of emotions at all on the beautiful face. No disgust, no resistance, no fear in his supposed pet's eyes. Instead, the blue orbs gazed calmly at him, the intensity of the gaze almost electrifying. The king's lips pulled back to a grimace. His teeth ground together in suppressed anger. For once, he felt stupid and vulnerable. He launched himself off the bed and pushed the kneeling boy down, ripping the shirt off in the process. There was no desired responses, not even a yelp of surprise or pain. The boy was perfectly silent. The blue eyes gazed intensely, as if they were judging him. Angered, he slapped the boy across the face. Such an insolent pet. How dare you look at your master like that? I'm going to take you so hard you'll beg me for death. The kitten at the corner let out a high-pitched wail. On your hands and knees right now. To his surprise, the blue orbs were calm and mysterious as the deep sea when the boy wiped the sloppy mess of his skin with the remaining fabric of the flimsy shirt. The strangely strong, slender fingers pried his pudgy ones away. The king hurriedly got on his feet, frightened when the boy towered over him. He barely reached the boy's chest when the boy stood up at full height. The boy threw the dirty fabric away, bare chest seemingly almost dead pale underneath the moonlight. The king scrambled away, something deep within him told him to run away, to jump off the balcony to get away from his new pet. His eyes darted to the way the boy rolled his shoulders. Strong muscles flexed the movement. The boy looked older now. His features sharpened and hardened, irresistibly appealing to the king's eyes. The king would have been salivating in desire at such a sight, but the moment he saw the glint of the blade in the pale hand, his lust died out. The boy even more repulsive than I thought. Entranced, the king froze at the boy's voice. Can I get a, Why do I have a save data there? That's not mine. Huh. Okay. Oh, the file they must have uploaded must have already had the save data on. That's fine. Entranced, the king froze at the boy's voice. Oh, I bet I can hit the little X button, can't I? Aha. There we go. Boom. The smooth, silky voice is both alluring and terrifying at the same time. Fear and wonder gripped him, trapping him in the unreasonable need of wanting to kiss the boy, and at the same time wanting to run away safely. He didn't realize that he was shaking, nor did he realize that the boy had raised the blade so that the sharp tip rested slightly just below his fat-layered chin. Oh, how the line of the pigs had fallen into disgrace. The boy shook his head in exaggerated remorse. The king trembled when he saw raging anger burnt behind the icy eyes. Your great-grandfather was an amazing king. I remember his reign. He was just and kind, unlike you. The king gulped when the blade was lightly pressed against his skin, drawing out little droplets of blood. Who are you? The boy looked down, catching the king's beady black eyes in one intense gaze. His lips pulled back to a smirk, blue eyes filled with satisfactory glee. I'm your death. The scream of the restrained kitten were loud and high-pitched. Honestly, it hurt my ears. As the head of the king bounced to the floor, the body soon collapsed with a heavy thud. I crinkled my nose at the putrid stink of the pig's blood, wincing at yet another high-pitched scream. I wiped my sword clean, intending to silence the screaming kitten at the corner of the room. Though her screams were drowned out by the chaotic horror right outside the palace. I closed my eyes at the noise, feeling the ripples of heat in the air. When I opened my eyes again, the dark sky had slowly turned reddish-orange. It has begun. I kicked the bodiless head of the king away and made my way to the shaking kitten. Hello. There's no nudity on this, is there? No, okay. She curled herself smaller when I reached her side. Her chocolate eyes followed each of my movements. She looked no older than early teens, small and underdeveloped. Her slender arms with shaky legs were bound in leather restraints. The metal collar was tied against her neck. The chain kept her linked to the wall. I frowned at the sight. Repulsive. I scowled upon the sight of her terribly bruised and wounded body. Some of the wounds were old and had not been taken care of. She backed away as I advanced, dirty tail curled around her body, her ears flat against her hair. Her warm chocolate eyes brimmed with tears as she gazed up to catch my eyes. Please spare me, my lord. Rape me as you please, but please, please, please don't kill me. She pleaded with a soft voice, flinching when I knelt by her side. Quickly, she tilted her head, baring her throat in submission to me. Her eyes were screwed shut in fear and repulsion. I reached out a hand to wipe her tears away. A soft gasp escaped her lips upon my touch. She opened her eyes and blinked in daze, as if she couldn't believe her own sight. Her gaze traveled to my face. Wonders and incredulity reflected on her face. I almost rolled my eyes. Taking liberty of her dazed observations, I broke the chain that kept her bound to the wall. The metal crumbled in my grip with a slight effort. I moved to the leather restraints afterwards. It took little effort to rip the tough fabric I had to flinch at how red her skin was underneath the restraint. The skin was littered with bruises and wounds. I traced a finger over the red welt on her naked torso, but immediately pulled my hand away the moment she tensed in distress. No. Gazing at her warm chocolate eyes, I held eye contact. She relaxed not long after. A purr rumbled from her chest. I undid her collar, and after a brief moment of contemplating, I brushed my fingers against the blister on her skin. This time she didn't tense up. She allowed me to touch her. Permission granted, I inspected her for any internal injuries. As if I would be able to do that, apparently. Her tail curled around my forearm when I pressed a tender spot on her body. A soft moan ripped from her throat. It was just a bruised rib. She was lucky to not have severe injuries. Thank you. I didn't say anything. I draped the dead king's cloak over her naked body and wrapped the cloak around her. She purred in the warmth. Her half-lidded eyes gazed at me with awe. Her ears perked up and twitched while her tail swished eagerly. The long purr resounding from her chest was the only proof I needed to know that she was feeling content. Yeah, cannot talk today. She nuzzled her nose against my thigh and was about to curl up there when we were interrupted. The door swung open and my companion walked in, bringing a clean set of clothes in his hands. Great timing. These tight pants are killing me. Eric. Props. I greeted back with a slight acknowledgement, tilted my head. Standing up, I ripped the tight pants off my legs and reached for the clothes he brought. The soft whine had me to pause mid-dressing. The pants were halfway up my thighs when the kitten crawled towards me. Her eyes were desperate. She was seeking a sense of comfort from me when she crawled by my feet, wrapping her tail around my legs. I saw the growing smirk on Krause's face and had to stop myself from groaning out loud. You got yourself a new pet? I scowled at him. She's not a pet, Cross. She's a kitten. And a person, I think. I pulled the shirt down from my torso and caught her gaze in the process. She looked up at me with innocent eyes and beamed happily. I sighed, but did really nothing to push her away. Ross straightened my coat over my shoulders. His breath was hot against my ears. Well, back in the age of man, kittens are humans' pets. I scoffed at the comment and pushed him away. The age of man is long ended, Cross. Humans are long fallen to extinction. Yeah, no need to go history lesson with me, master. Come, you have a kingdom to cleanse. Cross jerked his head towards the open door of the balcony. The sky was tinted orange. Flickering flame danced in the far horizon as screams of terror broke at the silence of the night. The ominous sound of leather wings flapped against the hot air buzzed through the air. The ominous sound of the leather wings flapped against the hot air buzzed through the air as fire-breathing and acid-spitting dragons roamed the city of the pigs, burning down everything to the ground. Fierce roars rivaled the screams and cries of the citizens of the city. I sighed. There went my intention to keep this as subtle as possible. Your brothers are as dramatic as you. Hey, don't diss them. They're the quickest way to wipe out the city. I ignored his defensive argument and knelt to level my height with the obedient kitten by my feet. I ruffled her hair, tickling her fluffy ears in the process. She squealed, her tail swished before it curled around my arm. She looked at me with immense trust in her eyes, unaware that I was about to commit mass genocide soon. I traced a finger down her cheek and was surprised when her hand came up to hold my own in place. You have a name, little one? Slut, my lord. Everyone calls me Slut. Fitting. My hand froze. The soft strands of her hair hung loosely between my fingers. I kept myself in check. My face fell to a flat poker face right the next second. I tend to keep it void of any emotions. Well, I should have expected that. I don't like that name. I muttered under my breath, not really intending for anyone else to hear the comment, though Krause's voice was grim and hinted his anger when he interjected. Give her a new one, then a better fitting name. How about Kathy? Kathy. That's the kind of name I'd come up with, right? Krause gave a weird look at me, mouthing the name with incredulity. I felt heat rush to my cheeks and grimaced at him, trying to ignore the light tint of pink that had surely dusted my cheeks. Very creative, Eric. He remarked with voice loud enough for just me to hear. I ignored the jibe. The kitten eagerly noticed at the new name. Her ears perked up with her tail swished happily. I decided to ignore Cross's mocking face and smiled at the happy kitten. Alright, Kathy. I want you to do something for me. Anything for you, my lord. Spread the word. Tell everyone the king has fallen. The line of the pigs has ended. I paused for a moment, exchanging a look with Krause. Tell them that the emperor has risen. This is the story of how he died. A bloody tragedy about a tyrant emperor who lost himself in power, drunken with greed and bloodlust. A tragedy that will put Macbeth to shame. A story of war, vengeance, and death. Ha! I wish, right? I wish. Don't fret, this is not a tragedy at all. In fact, this is a story of romance. You know, some sort of ancient classical romance of rags to riches between a sweet commoner and a charming emperor. And it all started years after I had risen to the throne. 15 years later. Alapu Clanstown? I'm probably butchering that, but that's how I'm gonna call it. In the far northeast of the lands of Drin, hidden at the borders of the untouched forest, there was a small town of foxes. They were the only race that was able to live there, as the ominous legend behind the Cape of the Blessed made other races, even other minorities like them, avoid the area. Isolated from the rest of the world, foxes only protect their own kin, still opting for the old monarchical tradition. The current king had 4 kits altogether. The youngest was the only vixen in the family. Said vixen now was sitting on the edge of the fountain in the middle of the town square, surrounded with young kits who eagerly looked at her, wanting for the usual entertainment. And so the heavens sent a messenger of their anger to stop the suffering on earth. Foxy read out loud to the circle of small kits. Her face scrunched up in an attempt to mimic the face of a fierce warrior, although she looked like a sulky babe instead. The god of war came without warning, bringing a horde of holy dragons with him. He mercilessly cleansed the earth off of its corruption. Whoosh, he went. Her hand that wasn't holding the book flailed around in a seemingly meaninglessly slashing moment, while the kittens giggled at her antics. And with the blood of the evil still dripping from his sword, he crowned himself as the supreme king, promising that there will be no more war in his reign. He paused for a moment, waiting for a reaction from her listeners. Princess Lexi Moore, tell us more. Princess laughed at the enthusiastic response and was about to flip to the next page when the book was taken from her hand. Hey, who? Irene? Aw, Irene's cute. Lexi fumed, scowling to her friend. Irene sighed and hissed back. Lexi, stop reading this ridiculous propaganda to the children. Irene! Lexi lunged for the book in Irene's hand, attempting to catch her friend off guard and retrieve the book. However, Irene was quicker on her feet. She stepped back, causing her friend to almost stumble, kissing the ground. No. Hey, give it back! She crossed her arms, cheeks puffed in sulky expression. Irene wasn't affected, though. Seeing that her cute, sulky face wasn't doing anything on her friend, Lexi uncrossed her arms and half yelled, reaching for the book again. Irene, it's my book. Give it back. Your book or the book you've stolen? Irene's face was triumphant, smirking as she kept the book out of Lexi's reach. Lexi growled. Her hands reached out for the book again. Well, what's the difference? Finders keepers? She yelped when Irene lightly knocked her forehead. Her cheeks flushed pink when the young kits giggled at their antics. Irene, how dare you treat your princess like this? Irene rolled her eyes. Her brow twitched in annoyance. She threw her arms in the air, totally frustrated. Oh, for the love of... This book is not a good choice for children. This book is so filled with lies and propaganda that it shouldn't even be allowed to go anywhere near the young minds of our people. You, Lexi, as our princess and our next alpha, you should know better to not spread this kind of thing around our folks. Seriously, what propaganda are you talking about? You do realize that this is a fictional creative rewriting of how our high and mighty emperor gained power, right? Carefully articulated each word as if she was explaining to a small child. Lexi's eyes went wide. Irene sighed. You don't know. I should have known that you wouldn't know. Seriously? Lexi demanded, pointing an accusing finger to the book. I thought it was just old myth. Lexi. Irene waved the book in her hand. This was not written until recently, a decade ago to be exact. It is in no way another old myth. Stupid propaganda. Lexi muttered and threw the book away, not even sparing a glance when the kids fought over the book and tore it into pieces in the process. Irene, on the other hand, were having none of it. She stood straight and tall, eyes glowering at the rabid young kit. She bellowed at the children. Children, behave yourselves. There's no need to act like savages. Almost instantly, upon hearing Irene's stern voice, the kids stopped fighting and immediately froze their movements, falling immediately into silence. Their wide, innocent eyes stared at her in a mix of awe and fear. Good. Now return to your parents. It's almost lunchtime. She motioned the kids away, sending them running home. Lunchtime. You think the elders are done discussing yet? Oh, they're done for sure. I like that hair. It looks really cool. The unexpected reply caused Lexi to jump a bit, while Irene simply looked over her shoulder. Nia, you surprised me. They summoned us, I reckon. Irene didn't waste time for chit-chat. She went straight to the point, and her face was grim. However, before Leah could reply, a kit suddenly appeared out of nowhere and hugged Lexi's legs. Princess! Lexi took a complete 2 seconds to recover from the shock. She pried the kit's grip off her legs and knelt so that she could be on the same height as of the kit. Yes, Lynn, sweetheart, why aren't you on your way home? It's almost lunch. The child ignored her question, but instead looked straight into her eyes. Huge doe eyes brimmed with tears. Princess, you're a fighter, right? Small hands of the kit reached out to gently grab the tip of Lexi's hair. The child held the hair in a loose grip. Her sincere eyes were worried. Am I a fighter? Yes, I am. Will you fight with someone strong and powerful to try to hurt you? Lexi frowned deeper, but cracked a smile regardless. Well, of course, I'm a strong princess. I won't submit to just anyone and let them hurt me. That's great. Kit broke into a toothy smile before the smile dropped and she sniffled. I heard my mommy said that you were leaving and she said you're going to be given to the Emperor. The sniffles gradually turned to sobs now before the kit started to bawl. And Daddy said that you're going to be raped and tortured once you reach there. They don't tell me what rape and torture means, but I don't like Daddy's voice. It sounded exactly like it was if I was hurt. It must be bad, right? The three vixens shot a grim look to one another. Irene knelt too, brushing the tears away from the sobbing kit's face. Leah hugged the kit from behind, humming a calm tone. Eventually, the kit stopped crying and Lexi was finally able to gather enough calmness to smile. She kissed the child's forehead, giving her the brightest smile. Don't worry, I will be fine. Tell your parents not to worry so much. She hugged the kid tight. When she broke the embrace, the kid held up her little finger. Promise, Pinky, promise that you'll stay happy and safe? Lexi nodded, linking her own finger with the kid. I promise. It's just a diplomatic trip. The kid smiled, showing her teeth before she kissed all three vixens on their cheeks and skittered home. Irene crossed her arms, her face fell to a grim expression. You do realize that her father might be right? She doesn't have to know. She's just a child. Let her keep her innocence. Her smile depleted when the kid disappeared from her sight. She locked into Irene's eyes, her face serene. If by surrendering myself to him can stop that monster from going anywhere near our people, so be it. Besides, it might have political advantages on us if we're able to please him. I still don't get why he suddenly wants girls worldwide to come to his palace. It's like opening his door for assassins. Kind of like Chess of Blades. Oh, the elder said that the message was sent to seek candidates for the Emperor's mate. There's no obligations. It was more to invitations for those who want to try. Leah chimed, her eyes sparkled, and she bounced in excitement. I think that's pretty gentlemanly of him. Most probably to be his concubines instead of mate. I don't think he's capable of loving anything. By the way, Leah, you haven't answered me. Did the elder summon us? Forgive me, Miss Irene, I have forgotten. Just like you thought, they wish to have us three there as soon as possible. Lexi nodded at that, started walking away, only to halt mid-stride. She turned around to stare at Leah in disbelief. Wait, us three? Irene narrowed her eyes toward Leah, her glasses glinted dangerously. Leah shifted her weight from one foot to another, avoiding eye contact with the other vixens. Apparently I will be joining you to Crance for the mission too. Why? I volunteered for this. There shouldn't be anyone else involved. I believe the elders have some doubts on our abilities, Lexi. What? Leah flinched at the sudden loud blare from Lexi. Irene rolled her eyes, her lips curved to a smirk. She shot a dirty look at Leah, narrowing her eyes at the revealing clothes the other vixen had chosen to wear. Leah subconsciously crossed her arms over her chest at such a scrutinizing gaze. Look at who they decide to send with us. An entertainer girl. Irene crinkled her nose in distaste, not even bothering to hide her scoff. Leah, on the other hand, hunched her body smaller under Irene's scrutinizing gaze, fiddling with the semi-translucent hem of her shirt. I guess, like my mother's concerned, they think we're lacking the charms to woo the Emperor. Who do they think I am? I am the princess. I can have this Emperor wrapped around my finger in the blink of an eye. She puffed up her chest before shooting a disbelieving look toward Leah. There's no need to have an entertainer girl as a backup plan. Princess Lexi, perhaps you shouldn't be so loud. What a bunch of rotten old minds. Eh? Miss Irene, what did you say? Not only do they sing young girls to the literal mouth of doom, but they also have chosen such a vixen. Leah's sweat dropped. And to such old perverted emperor, too. What are they even thinking? She had tried to calm both vixens down. She brought her hands up, trying to avoid Lexi's flailing hands and Irene's impending dark aura. I only wish to make the Emperor happy, Miss Irene. I do not wish to compete with you for his affections. That immediately silenced both of them. They stared at Leah with an identical look of disbelief before both bursting out laughing. Irene was the first to recover. She planted her hands on her hips, a smirk on her face. Compete for his affection? Why would I want that ruthless monster's affection? Well, he's not that bad. Compete? Ha! I'm the strongest princess of our clan. Nobody would ever think to compete with me. Of course you're a strong princess, your highness. A smile bloomed on Leah's lips. She stared at Lexi, her eyes earnest, as she watched the princess walk away. That's why I think you'll fit well with the Emperor, as he's strong and powerful. On the other hand, Irene and Lexi halted their step, their faces an identical mask of disgust. You... Irene mouthed, shuddering violently. You have the weirdest thoughts, Leah. Huh? Leah flushed pink. She suddenly felt stupid. Why? You volunteered because you like him, don't you? Irene and Lexi shared a look. Both of them simultaneously shuddered in horror. Absolutely. Not you. But why? Leah half shrieked. She alternated an incredulous gaze between both vixens as if she couldn't believe that they had just said that. Why? I mean, he's a handsome young man. He's old. But he looks young in the posters? Photoshop, my dear. Photoshop. Photo editing can do wonders, you know. 15 years have passed since he first gained control. Even if he was young back then, he's old now. But he's charming and powerful, too. He's a rotten, ruthless monster. Vile and ignorant bastard. Leah slumped in defeat. She shuddered. Her voice was meek, but she went on. But he saved us from the pigs. Back then we lived in a horrible, tormented condition. Back then we lived in a horrible, tormented condition. Women were nothing but sex tools. Poverty was everywhere, even in the cities. But now things have changed. Lexi closed her eyes, trying to calm her own rage. Why are you trying so hard to defend that blasted emperor? We're still struggling now. He has forsaken us. There isn't that much all that's different. She waved her hand, signaling that the argument was over. Lesser evils aren't better than worse evils, to put it simply. But everyone has some good in them. Lexi's gaze was sharp when she spat her words through gritted teeth. Not him. If there's good in him, he would have done something to help us when we're starving, when others isolate us, when our people have to sell their kits for food. Lexi narrowed her eyes towards Leah's trembling form. Leah's body trembled violently. Lexi's words were a stab of truth to her heart, although she kept her gaze fixed on the ground. Her eyes were red and teary behind her bangs, but she forced a smile when she straightened her back to catch Lexi's gaze again. Her smile was sweet, but her eyes were sorrowful. Irene, who had been silent throughout the whole exchange, shot at Lexi a warning gaze. Lexi, no. Lexi ignored her, raising her chin with pure royalty arrogance. She practically looked down on Leah. I believe you know better than that, Leah. Leah went eerily silent. The corner of her smile quivered, as if she was forcing herself to maintain that smile. Her emerald eyes went teary. She sniffed, but kept the smile. Do I? It was a long, awkward silence between the three of them until Irene decided to step up. She glared at Lexi. Silently, she was grumbling at the princess's insensitive, brutal honesty. Patting Leah's shoulders, she offered the younger vixen a hesitant, awkward hug. Enough of this. Fine? Foxy rolled her eyes and sighed as she walked past the other two vixens in the direction of the city hall. Come, you two. The elders are waiting. We have a mission to complete. The earth is rumbling, my dear son. Hey, it's Raksha. Stop, it hurts. It hurts. The sea is restless. The wind is sending me warnings day and night. It was painful to be so close to her when she was angry. I haven't seen her this angry since... Mother! It was a wonderful morning in Asteria. The sky was bright and blue right outside the window, reflecting warm morning sunlight into my room. The clouds were fluffy and soft-looking against the blue sky. You would have thought they would be touchable and so nice to lie on. No, they're not. Don't ever try to jump off a building so you can lie on a fluffy-looking cloud. You'll fall from hundreds of feet at a deadly velocity enough to turn you into one bloody spot once you hit the ground. Or so I've heard. Gravity isn't a myth, you moron. But really, it was a wonderful, perfect morning. The birds were chirping cheerfully. The air was so clean and fresh. The only flaw of the supposed great morning was my gleefully grinning advisor. Rise and shine, master. The walking annoyance had the guts to greet me with a sing-song voice. Boy, they really need to proofread this stuff. I heard the sound of the pail being put down, and soon enough I felt his weight sunk in the right side of my bed. I internally groaned. Wakey, wakey. He bounced on the bed right by my head. His voice got annoyingly louder. I know you're already awake. I removed my arms from my eyes and glared at him. He grinned, but soon the grin dropped to a frown when I didn't respond. Master, your majesty. Give me one good reason why I should not have you beheaded and your head served raw on a platter for my breakfast, Kraus. Because you are a vegetarian, sir. He grinned again, pointing to his face, eyes wide and bright. I grunted at his cheerfulness. It was still too early for this, damn it. Because I'm too cute to die? The fact that he was able to say things like that, it was the most obvious thing in the world, had my eyebrow twitching. My mind was having internal debate whether to punch him or not. But I was still sleepy, so never mind. Master Eric. Master Eric. I suppressed a groan while he started whining, calling me again and again with that annoying baby talk. I smacked him with the back of my hand and rolled to the dry side of the bed, determined to ignore him. Great Emperor or not, I still need my rest. My very much needed rest. Pressing the pillow over my head, I shut my eyes and tried to block his insistent whining. Go play somewhere else. But you have to wake up. He yelled instead, trying to pull me off the bed. Come, wakey, wakey. I pulled back my arm from his grip. After a brief sleepy thought, I threw my pillow towards his direction. Do not test my patience, Cross. Aww. He whimpered before I felt the pillow was thrown back towards me. I hit my bare back with a soft thud. The right side of the bed sunk again as he shouted at me. Wake up, 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 up! Oh, great. Now I started jumping on the bed. If anyone else saw this, my reputation would go downhill in a blink of an eye. I rolled around to lie on my back. My mood was a wreck. I grabbed one of his ankles midair, causing him to fall into the bed, his legs straddling me. He stared sheepishly at me. I glared back. Rouse. He didn't even seem to be intimidated by my stern voice as he gave me the wide, toothy grin. Yes, your majesty. Tightened the grip of my own hand on his ankle with enough force to make him yelp in pain. I can and will silence you in the hard way if I need to. Get the hell out. With that, I released his ankle. He immediately rubbed the part I had squeezed. His long fingers brushed along the blooming hand-shaped bruise. He looked up to me then, his face twisted in a concerned frown. You're awfully moody today. What time did you go to sleep last night? I yawned. What time is it now? He briefly checked his phone for the time. Looking back at me, he seemed confused. 8 a.m.? I had to suppress yet another groan. Great! That'll make only an hour and a half of sleep for me since the last 72 hours. And this annoyance decided to wake me up with ice-cold water. Just fantastically great. Memo to me. Punish him when mind is ready to function. I groaned and rubbed my temple. It wasn't even supposed to be this easy to have me suffering frequent headaches, but dealing with him since the past years had my resistance against headaches had gradually weakened. I retrieved back my pillow and pulled my blanket over my head. I was tired. I was practically exhausted to death. I wanted my sleep. Master, sang, trying to pull off my blanket. Sighing one long, suffering sigh, I poked my head out of the blanket, just enough to mouth my orders to him. Master! He rejoiced upon seeing my face. His leathery ears twitched and perked up. I rolled my eyes. Cancel everything that I'm supposed to have this morning. If anyone makes a fuss, kill them. Throw them in the dungeon. Whatever. Just let me sleep. To my horror, he didn't seem to understand. Or he chose to ignore my orders, which is probably the more likely scenario. Either one of the two. Must be the second choice. He wasn't as stupid as it looked like. Oh, Master's cranky, 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 cranky. He sang song, bouncing right beside me. I groaned and banged my head to the pillow. He's not gonna stop, is he? He thankfully went silent for a moment. I was about to fall asleep when I felt his fingers brush my bangs away. His voice was a soft murmur as he asked once again. What time did you arrive home last night, Master? Sometime before dawn. I murmured, slowly getting relaxed, and rested my head against his thigh. Went to sleep when the morning bell rang. By the love of Mother Cross, get the message already. Let me sleep. I see. He hummed. His hand traveled downwards to massage the back of my neck. I was starting to get real comfortable at the ministration. I would like to let you get a bit more sleep, but the girls are arriving this morning. They're already at the airports as we speak. His voice almost faded to utter nothingness when my mind registered his words. My eyes snapped open. See, I was not expecting like cell phones and airports in this world, but I guess they're there. My eyes snapped wide open as I stopped his ministration with a grip of his wrist. Ouch! He yelped, trying to wriggle his wrist free. When I showed no sign of yielding to his protests, he pouted, sending a sulky glare at me. Please do not treat the ladies like how you treat me. They are softer and have lower tolerance to pain compared to me, you sadistic master. I would have apologized for the yet another bruise I laid on him, but there were more pressing matters. Fully awake now, I glared at him. What girls? He somehow was able to blink oh so cutely, like he was the most innocent person on the good old earth as he answered me. Oh, the girls I collected to accompany you on lonely nights. I can almost hear my own mind shriek at the statement. He collects girls? I do not recall giving out that order. If glares could maim and kill, he would have been a puddle of mincemeat right now with the way I kept glaring at him. Because you didn't. He beamed at me, seemingly oblivious to my foul mood. I did this out of my own accord. Aren't I good, my lord? I sat there silently stunned at the news. He had to be kidding me. I didn't have time for girls. Rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, I ordered him. They have cuties. Send them back to wherever they belong. I do not have time for this. Ross seemed ridiculously horrified. His eyes went wide in a comical shock, and his mouth gaped like a suffocating fish. He leaned closer towards me with hopeful wide eyes and clasped hands. I bet if this was some sort of weird drama on the television, he would have sparkles around him now. But I have given them tickets. They're non-refundable. Ross blinked his doe eyes. So can they stay, Master? Non-refundable tickets, after all. I could have snorted at this blatant stupidity if I wasn't so rudely woken up earlier. The temptation to maim this annoyance of a dragon was very, very strong. I inhaled a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. Once I was sure I won't explode, I spoke. Ross, I'm the Emperor, refundable or not, if I want something to be sent back to their original place. They sure as hell would be if they know what's best for them. But I held up a hand to silence him. No buts. My tone was stern and authoritative. I sent another glare to silence his incoming retorts. Send them back to their origin cities, cancel my schedule for this morning, and then get yourself out of here. Nobody is to disturb me unless they no longer see value in their lives. I had to be specific with the last one. He nodded meekly, his shoulders slumped down in disappointment. Yes, Your Majesty. I was halfway to sleep and Cross apparently had another idea. It was too bad I missed his tattletale smirk, or I could have stopped this whole damn mess in my life before it even started. Very, very clear, Your Majesty. That's it. That's the end of the demo. Thanks for playing. Well, it was semi-enjoyable. It needs a lot of work, obviously. The music choices were odd at times. I mean, maybe that's just me. They were okay, but a little bit loud. There was no way to turn the volume down that I saw. But I mean, it's a demo of a Kickstarter game. Obviously, it's going to be worked on. It's going to be proofread, hopefully at some point soon. Because honestly, if you're putting a demo out for a game to get people to buy it, to invest in your idea, the whole point of Kickstarter, right? You want to put out, your best foot forward. You want to make sure your demo is, up to snuff. People don't like, they don't like, grammatical errors. That puts people off. It makes people think that you're kind of unprofessional. Not that I think that, but I'm just saying, it would have been nice for the demo to be relatively coherent at times. I mean, it was fine, but at certain times it's like, whoa, how did that get past the writing that? What happened there? But it is what it is. So with that, that's the end of the video. I'll have a link in the bottom description for the Kickstarter. You can donate. It'll probably be funded. Not a big deal. So yeah, it'll be on the lookout for this game. I think it comes out. I think their plan is later this year. I believe December is what the tentative release date is. But who knows when it's actually going to come out. But with that, I will leave you guys and hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time, and have a good day.